Hello friends, what is the similarity between the countries like USA, Russia, China, India, Pakistan? They all are nuclear power, or better be known as nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is basically of two types. One is the nuclear fusion and another is the nuclear fission. As the name suggests, the nuclear fusion is the kind of energy which is released when two different types of elements join together to form a different or third type of element. Whereas the nuclear fission is a chain reaction which is formed when one kind of element disintegrates into various kinds of different elements. Both of them are highly devastating because the amount of energy released during this process is really very high. We can't even imagine that. We can use the nuclear energy in a controlled way, and this kind of controlled reaction is basically done into the nuclear reactors. Today, whichever the country which is using the nuclear energy or the nuclear resources for generation of electricity, they are doing it into the nuclear reactors. I can give an example that these days people are purchasing printers because they are very cheap. But what about the cartridges? Cartridges are very costly. Same is the countries who are making the nuclear reactors. They are acting in a very clever way. They are making the nuclear reactors and they are supplying to the countries like India or other developing countries where the petroleum is very short or there is a highly scarcity of petroleum. So what these countries are doing, these countries are making the nuclear reactors and they are selling the nuclear reactors into these countries. And they also sign a kind of contract that we will supply you the nuclear reactor at a very cheap price, but then you have to purchase the nuclear fuel from us. The nuclear fuel is actually very costly, or they are pricing it at a very high cost. So that's how they are running their business. They are supplying the nuclear reactors at a cheap price, but selling the nuclear fuel at a very high price. The countries like India and other developing countries are trapped because they have now imported the nuclear reactors and now they are bound to purchase the nuclear fuel by these countries only. At the same time, these countries are doing it another thing, that they are signing the contract that you will not use the nuclear reactions for other purposes. So what they are doing is they themselves are making the uncontrolled nuclear reactions, that is the nuclear bombs, and they are not allowing the other countries to master into this kind of technology. The nuclear reactor is a very risky kind of environment. If you imagine there is a nuclear leakage from these nuclear reactors, the results is highly devastating. We all know that what happened in Japan, the Fukushima nuclear reactor. The entire village surrounded that particular reactor vanished. Same thing can happen anywhere, wherever the nuclear reactors are being installed. So I highly advocate that the countries like India and other countries should stop using the nuclear energy or the nuclear reactors, and they should invest more into the energies like solar, the wind energy, or other natural energies, which is very economical and they doesn't harm the environment as well. If you can imagine the amount of solar energy we receive, or the amount of sunshine we receive in one particular state of India, that is Rajasthan. If you imagine that the Rajasthan is covered with the solar cells, then what can happen? We don't require any kind of nuclear reactors or any other kind of energy generation method. That alone solar power will be sufficient. So again friends, I'll request or I'll suggest or I'll highly advocate that we should stop using nuclear power, or request the government also to stop using the nuclear energy and invest more into these kinds of energy resources like solar, wind or water. Thank you.